Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. First off, I just had to give a massive thank you to you all once again for all of your love and support for the travel palettes. The last wave basically all went in the first day, which is just crazy to me. I have now easily made over 100 travel palettes, which I never thought this would be a thing, but here we are. I am now at over 100 travel palettes, so thank you all so much, and there's actually going to be even more available in my store right now. I got a decent amount of messages from the last wave just saying you unfortunately either missed the wave or by the time you got to look in my store they were all gone, so I wrestled together a really fast restock, as fast as I could create them, and those will have been available for a few days at this point, so I'm not sure how many of that particular portion is going to still be available, but then I also did a slightly larger wave restock as well, so any of those will be available in my store right now. The link, as always, will be in the top of the description box. But other than showing you the process of creating the new travel palettes, I also wanted to tackle something that I sort of started in my last studio vlog. Now, if you've seen the last studio vlog, you will know that I decided to create a custom 3D printed palette box for my 36 White Knight watercolor pans. And in that video, I mentioned that I wasn't sure if this would be a product that anyone would be interested in for me to possibly make as another product to sell, and boy, you guys were interested in this concept. So pretty much since the day that that studio vlog had gone up, I have been sorting through the logistics of what these palette boxes would possibly be. Of course, as soon as you add a different product to a store, you need to worry about packaging, shipping, pricing, how you're going to create it. They are 3D printed, but I knew immediately that if I was going to be creating these to sell and not just for myself, I would be doing an entire redesign of the product and really just make this as awesome as I possibly could. And so that is what this studio vlog is probably going to more mainly be about, is the prototype and behind the scenes process of creating the new palette boxes. Now, how this is going to work, because it is an entirely new product for me, is it's going to be on more of a custom order basis, at least for now. I really wanted to make sure that the people that were really interested in these palette boxes could get them first in the sizes and possible colors that they wanted specifically for them. I will also be making them available as just the plain box if you want to decorate it yourself or you're just not into the pour painted lid look. So these are most likely not going to be a custom order forever. I just wanted to start like this, like I said, so that I knew the people that wanted them first could get them. But eventually I will be looking at expanding these into a normal store type of launch situation, whether that is just the boxes alone as well as possibly some unique pre-poured lid ideas. So for right now, it's going to be a custom order situation. So if you're interested in that, my email will be right here on the screen, but there will of course be all of that information in the description box as well. But I would recommend watching the portion of this video where I am creating these palette boxes so you can really see exactly what the particular sizes are meant for and just generally learn more about the products themselves. So now that I've rambled on forever in this intro, let's actually get on to the exciting part of the studio vlog. The first thing that I wanted to look at for the palette box redesign was the differences in watercolor pan sizes. My original box was of course designed specifically to fit the White Knight's full pans, but I wanted to make something that would be able to fit a variety of different types of watercolor pans so that these palette boxes could be used with whatever existing pans your paints are currently in. After that, I basically just played around with some of the empty pans and looked at possible configurations for palette boxes. The first size that I came up with was the easiest. It's pretty much just the improved version of the first palette box that I made that everyone fell in love with. It is quite a large box that holds a ton of paint though, so I wanted to also look at some smaller options as a possibility, so I came up with these. The mini palette box and the small palette box have a nice even size that work well for both half pans as well as full pans, or a mixture of both. Once I figured out the configurations that I wanted, I took super precise measurements of the pans and 3D modeled some boxes to start 3D printing. So the very first prototype that I printed was this particular mini palette. So this is my first original design for the mini size, and it does fit all of the pans really nicely, but I realized that the lid was a little loose on it, so I did modify that. But overall, my original measurements for the inside, as well as the thicknesses and layers for the sides of the palette as well as the bottom, all felt really nice. This thing's super sturdy and just really nice feeling. So the only thing that I was deciding to modify was shrinking the millimeter allowance for the lid to actually slide on and off, which even then I only shrunk the length and width by a single millimeter. So once I did that, I redid all of the 3D files for all of the tins and I printed them all out, and they all miraculously work perfect. They are literally measured down to the millimeter. So this is the actual final prototype for the mini palette. As you can see, I plopped some half pans in there, which I want to have a little wiggle room for sizing, just for people that are wanting to put in a mixture of half pan and full pan, or if the pans that they're using aren't exactly the same size as mine, but this isn't like so much allowance that it's really going to be a problem. And all of these palettes are going to come with some sticky tack like I used for my palette to stick the pans in if you want. So yeah, that's why there is a little wiggle room, just because, like I said, I do want this to fit a variety of palettes regardless of what you have, while still having it be a nice secure fit, but still having just a little bit of wiggle room. So this was the final mini palette size prototype. Moving on to the small, again, they basically are the same thicknesses and widths as far as the individual pieces go, like the size of the lid. They're all the same, they're just larger and smaller versions of each other, so they all have the equal strength and print quality to them. So this one, as you can see, I actually had to print these full pans because I only have one extra. And so these are full pans that I printed that perfectly match up what I have sort of deemed, from everything that I can find out, the fairly universal size for the full pans. Although I will say, from what I have looked at, the full pan sizing differs the most. For all of the different half pans that I have, the only ones that were slightly different are the Winsor and Newton Cotman half pans, and even those, they're actually basically the same size, they're just a little thinner, so they're still going to fit really well. But as for full pans, I went around in my collection looking at the empty ones that I've purchased in the past, looking online because I don't have as many, looking at some Winsor Newton ones that I have, the White Knight ones, and I had like 3 or 4 different sizes. But from everything that I can see, the ones that you can generally purchase are these exact size pans, which are the size that I ended up printing. So as you can see, 12 full pans fit really nicely into this. Half pans will fit, of course, too. I just right now have these full pans in here. So that is what the small prototype looks like. Again, I'm sure I'm going to have a bunch of different information in the rest of this video, so I don't want to be repeating too much, just in case I've already mentioned all of this already. But I am going to make like a catalog to just really break down exactly the sizes of these palettes, how many palette pans they can fit, and all of that kind of stuff, with names, prices, all of that. So that is the prototype for the small, which there is the size comparison between the mini and the small. So pretty big difference, as well as capacity wise. This one is really would be nice for slipping into like a pencil case or something, which is why I wanted to really create a mini, because I know lots of people like taking smaller quantities of paint with them, or just working with a smaller, more condensed palette. onto the prototype for what I call the large size, which pretty much ended up being the exact same size as my original palette, which has created this whole new venture for me. So the only thing that I changed between the two is I made the new one. Again, this one's filled with some half pans, or not filled, but just has some laid out just to make sure they all fit nicely in there. The only difference between these is I made the new one that will be available for purchase. The walls are a lot thicker, it's a lot nicer feeling and sturdier. Not that mine wasn't practical, it's just, you know, if I was going to make these for other people, I did want this to feel really nice. So this is essentially the new, improved, updated version of this one, which I know this one is the original one that everyone was super interested in. So this one will fit the exact 36 White Nights palettes in it as well, alongside being able to fit 60 half pans. So really nice capacity with this. And the reason I wanted to keep one pretty much the same size is because, like I said, this is the one that everyone originally fell in love with and was asking about. So I did want to have one be just an improved version of this particular one. But the slight issue, I guess, with that is these White Night pans are decently smaller. They are definitely a strange size. I'm not sure if you will be able to see on camera. I'm going to grab one of my printed pans over here. They are just enough of a different size. I have that lined up with the black on the end there. So like I said, I'm not sure. It is like millimeters, fractions of millimeters difference, but when you start getting those together, it starts messing things up. So as far as full pans go, I will have to figure out exactly how many normal size full pans will fit in this. But if you're doing a mixture, you're going to get a lot of fit out of this size, but it will also fit perfectly the good old 36 White Night pan size into this exactly. So that is why I wanted to still create this, even though this is possibly more practical in size for half pans, a bit of a mixture, but you're not going to fit 36 entire full pans into this. I'm just going to grab my printed ones here. So for the White Nights you can fit 6, and as you can see with this you can fit 5.5 pan on the end there. Really nice. So if you're looking at a mixture, this size might be the perfect one for you, but if you are looking for something that's holding a lot more of the full pan sizes, I ended up deciding to swap my ideas a little from my original plan, because I wanted to have one that would definitely fit entire full pans of the more standard size. So I decided to come up with the XL, extra large palette. So this one is just a little larger in the length to be able to perfectly fit those 6 standardized size full pans in without any issue. So there's not a massive difference between the two. If you're looking for the absolute largest palette box size that these are going to come in, this is the extra large and what that is for. I'm going to measure out again and figure out exactly how many half pans this will fit, but it will fit no problem the 36 full pans for the length. The actual height of them isn't ever an issue. They are really standardized that way, so not a big deal. I'm not sure if you'll be able, here, if I move this lid out of the way. They are the same length. It is just that little extra room on the end there. So it will be really good. The extra large will be really good if you're someone that's planning on mixing and matching full pans and half pans, and all of that kind of stuff. So that is the extra large prototype. Again, I'm gonna basically make a catalog explaining and showing off all of these, the sizes, their actual measurements inside, because I do know those precisely since I did design all of this. The lids themselves are completely plain inside, so you could actually end up possibly using this underside as a bit of a mixing area. It's made of the same material as my travel palette mixing dishes are, and people seem to really like those, so there's no reason why you couldn't use this as well. I decided originally, because I was thinking about, you know, using the lid as a mixing dish, I did think about splitting the areas into more well type things, but I just decided I really wanted the lids to fit on nice and flat, and as soon as you start adding the lips for the well areas, it was going to start messing with that. So yeah, those are all of the palette prototypes, what the boxes look from on the side. Wanted to keep them really nice and slick. Again, all of the measurements, I will create some sort of catalog that you can look at, and I'm sure that will be in the description box. And here's an actual size comparison of the 4 palette box sizes. Since I've been pour painting so much, and I plan on doing a lot more in the next few weeks, I dragged myself into an actual store for the second time since March because I really needed to restock on some paint, and I figured I might as well show you the repurchases and new stuff that I picked up to use. Now there is actually a decent amount of the stuff that I picked up online as well. I did order some stuff from Michael's because my local closest Michael's didn't actually have a lot of what I needed, and so it was just going to be easier to order it than sort of go around to every Michael's close to me. But I guess we'll start off with the one thing that isn't paint, and it is these brushes. They're just the Craft Smart brand. I really like using these for acrylic paint, and I've been meaning to pick up some more synthetic flat brushes just for like a gouache and watercolor, and these also tend to work great for those paints as well, so I just decided to pick up a specific set that I can keep in more of my watercolor brush area. So not super pour paint related, but did purchase that the other day as well. Guess we'll start off with the biggest thing. Now originally I was trying to find my usual big just Craft Smart brand big thing of white acrylic paint, because I buy a big bottle and then I just pour it into the smaller bottles to use, since you do use a lot of white in pour painting. You use black as well, but they didn't have any of the white that I normally buy, so I decided to pick up the folk art version. I'm sure it's going to work just as well. I also really like the folk art paint, so you know, it's pretty basic white giant tub of acrylic paint that will hopefully last a decent amount of time. I did pick up a big container of just the standard Craft Smart black paint because I do go through this a lot too, and I'm running low on black as well as the white. Now these two are sort of related. You do tend to use the most white and black in pour painting, but I personally use dark blue almost as frequently as both of those as well. And I couldn't decide between these two. I do have this paint in a smaller bottle, and I find it could be a touch darker, but I was willing to buy a big bottle of it anyway. You know, this type of paint really isn't that expensive, and I'm going through it like crazy with all of the travel tins that I make and just anything else in the future that involves pour painting art. So large quantities of paint for me, not a big deal. But I also decided to try this already ready to pour, like it already has the pouring medium in it, so I decided that I was gonna try some of this stuff as well, especially since just from like kind of looking at the bottom, it almost looks like it's a bit of a darker blue. Onto some more normal paints. I just have a repurchase of the Craft Smart Violet matte paint. It's just one of the ones that I was running low on. I also picked up the Winter Plum color. I don't believe I have this one, and it just looked like a super interesting color that I thought would look cool in different tin color schemes. Onto some more fun paints. I picked up these 2 new colors of the Dragonfly Glaze paint. I really love mixing this stuff into different color paints. This is the color that I've been using the most in the tins. This one is the Violet Blue Green Shift, and I have a swatch on the top of the lid, but it's just this really fine, almost micro glitter, and it mixes really well into other colors. Like overall it's a pretty, like, it's almost just like the micro glitter suspended in like a clear base. So I like mixing this stuff into other paint colors, and it just likes mixing into other paints a lot, and it sort of rises to the top, and you can definitely see it in the paint colors, and it just gives it a really awesome, cool effect. So I decided to also pick up the red, violet, blue shift and the gold, red, violet shift, because I figured those would be the two colors that would complement the general color schemes that I use in my tins the most. Also along the glitter lines, I picked up these Galaxy glitters. Now, not gonna lie, the name of them had a lot to do with trying them out, but just inspecting these closer up, the glitter particles in these particular paints aren't as large as some of the other glitter paints that I have mixed into the palettes before, and I thought just the slight decrease in the size of the individual specks of glitter would be a good thing, considering the travel palettes aren't a very large surface, and I find that some of the other glitters that I have used before, some of the particles just seem a little large. This one is in Milky Way blue. I am here for these colors. We have Purple Eclipse and Pink Cosmos. So yes, the name did sort of get me, but I also think these are going to look really cool in palettes, and just the color scheme of the various glitters in these particular bottles is very nice, cohesive colors, so they will probably look great in tins. This is another repurchase. It's just the Craft Smart Bronze paint. Again, another color I like using a lot in the palettes. I do try and mix in different textures of colors and different finishes, and metallics get used a lot, so picked up another one of these. I also decided to try out this copper color. It is a lot more red based than the bronze. The bronze is pretty orange, as you can see, so I thought this one would be really interesting to try out in tins as well. Also went for some more jewelry tone shades. This one is, of course, sapphire color. I've already sort of looked at this. I will be swatching all of these on their lids. But yeah, just a really nice metallic blue. Also along the lines of metallic paint, I have the Folk Art Garnet, which is a really nice, like, ruby metallic color that I thought would look really cool in palettes as well. Then there are these three paints, which I know you're thinking, what on earth? Well, slight story with these. These were part of the order that I made, and the large tub of white paint decided to remove its cap mid-shipping and empty itself completely in the box, and these were the unfortunate casualties in the paint tube department that got it the worst. So the first one isn't too bad. This is just charcoal black metallic from Folk Art. So this is, in theory, possibly like a super dark version of my all-time favorite paint, the black nickel dupe, whatever it's called, the brushed metal stuff. So really, I hadn't seen this one before, so I really wanted to try it out. And these two, not that you can tell, are also metallic paints. This one is the rose gold that just does not have a label anymore because of the acrylic, but I don't actually have a rose gold paint, and I know a lot of people really like rose gold, so I thought I would get a tube of that to mix into some palette color schemes. And then this one is also just a purple metallic that I'm not sure if that's the full color name, but just a really nice purple metallic that, again, I thought would look really nice in palettes as well. And some more fun paint colors. I really love these color shift colors. I figured out which ones I was missing in my collection and decided to pick the rest of the series up. So this one is Yellow Flash, Green Flash, and Emerald Flash. And these ones are exactly what they say the name would suggest. They are color shifting reflective colors. I'm not sure how well these particular colors are going to show up on camera just because their color shift isn't as super obvious as some of the others. But I do really like these paints, and I thought branching out to some other color choices would be a super cool thing to try out. Also, for the color shift paints, I have the Orchid Flash, which is this really cool pink with like gold, rose gold, dual sheen hologram bits in it, whatever you want to call those. And the actual final thing that I'm just going to hold the camera to show you because it's going to be way easier is this paint spinner, which this was in a box, but that box no longer existed due to the white paint fiasco that I had to deal with. But yeah, this holds 48 bottles, and I'm very kind of clearly running out of paint storage around here. So I thought I would try one of these out for some more storage, especially since it is pretty decently compact and I will be able to see all of the colors. So this might hold some more of the more unique fancy paints, like the metallics, some of the glitters maybe, just stuff that I don't necessarily want in the usual acrylic tube section over here. I mean, I have an entire drawer too, but generally the paint colors that I use go in there. So we will see. I'm sure I will make a lot of use out of this at any rate. So here is the finished lid for my custom first sort of test watercolor box. It turned out great. I did need to test to see if there were any like adverse effects to adding resin to the 3D printed material, because I do end up having to torch it, but the layers of resin and paint and just generally I guess the light touch of the torch on the resin to get rid of the bubbles didn't warp the plastic or anything to any degree. So now the lid is completely all finished, and yeah, so that's the finished result for my original palette. My studio has seriously turned into like a shipping warehouse, and the pallets are just taking over the entire place. I've got multiple boxes of tins and then just the bottoms of some tins that are being painted right now. There, we've got extra tape now, extra filament, more boxes of pallets, more filament, lots of foam down there. Even more pallets up here because they can't even fit in the drawer. Stuff's printing right now. And then the actual drawer itself for shipping, as you can see, there's like just tons and tons of pallets. So I'm gonna try and deal with a little bit of this and get some pallets in the tins to try and minimize the extras. Yeah, it's a full house palette-wise. I ended up being so preoccupied with getting all of the travel palettes ready to go, making sure all the pictures were taken for all the individual listings, all of the new pictures for the palette boxes, that I completely forgot to finish this studio vlog. So I would just like to thank you so much if you've made it this far into the video. Of course, all of the links to any of these products, if you're interested in them, will be in the description box. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.